Hey, it's Gabriel with Nervous Nellies. Just a reminder, Jarrod and I are not medical professionals. We're just chit-chatting with microphones present. If you feel like you need proper diagnosis or treatment, please reach out to a medical professional.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can find a medical professional is in the show notes. Let's do it.
You get peace and contentment and joy. The power comes from the gods.
All right, Jarrod, let's check in.
Check in. How are you this week?
I'm good. Now, it does sound like you're saying chicken. Like you're just yelling chicken.
Chicken. Check in. Check in.
I'm doing really well this week. In fact, I just saw my therapist.
How'd that go?
It's good. It's good. I'm still not quite over him being heterosexual, but you know, you take what you can get. He mentioned, I mentioned this foreign concept to me that it really was just like a what did you say to me? Why would you say that? But he suggested that I coddle myself.
That sounds perverted.
Well, what he means is self-care.
Oh.
Yeah, he wants me to like, you know, like how would I talk to myself if I was a small child,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my response was, you know, if I was to see a friend or a family member going through the same pain that I was, I would definitely jump in and cuddle and coddle and comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to me, myself, I'm pretty much like one of those dance moms, you know, like get it together.
Mm-hmm.
You're on in 5.
Mm-hmm.
Pull your shit together. Quit your crying.
Me too.
Yeah, I think everybody's like that with themselves.
Yeah, we're the hardest on ourselves.
Yeah, so he wants me to start trying to be a little bit nicer to me, start understanding my needs and not apologize for them, right?
So how does that look? What do you do?
So, as you know, I do have panic attacks,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm prone to anxieties.
Mm-hmm.
And I will find myself doing quote-unquote weird things, right? I need to move around, right? I'm a very fidgety person,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I'm confined
Mm-hmm.
or feeling confined. And so I will apologize for it over and over and over. So I think I told you I went for a haircut, and I was telling the girl that was cutting my hair, like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry. I haven't had a haircut in like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you know, it's blah, blah. I just go off on like this weird, either too much honesty or I start lying. Like, oh, I just had a heavy meal and I don't feel so good. I need to excuse myself for a moment. No, what's going on is I need a moment to myself to collect myself. And I'm lying to this person so I can do that. So I can go to the bathroom where I have some private time to calm down, get my shit together, and, you know, be cool.
Yeah.
Right? Reel it in. And he's like, well, you know, why do you apologize for that? Why do you feel embarrassed about that? Why do you find that to be humiliating? And I was just like, well, I just want my body to work normally.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be functional.
Mm-hmm.
So he's given me the task of looking at those feelings and not apologize for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the idea that over time you sit in the discomfort and then it eventually goes away.
I think the idea is to understand that I have limitations and I should not be apologizing for them.
Or that we don't have to be happy 100% all the time and that's okay.
No.
No?
Marvel, my dog,
the
is
dog,
just
he-
so surprised by how wrong you are.
Well, I'm sorry, Marvel.
No, I mean, I think the whole purpose of it is, you know, if I was in a wheelchair
Mm-hmm.
and I needed a ramp to get into a store, the equivalent is me apologizing for needing a ramp, right? When I shouldn't apologize for that.
No.
Right. I have a limitation that requires, some accommodation, and I shouldn't apologize for that.
I 100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
But also just devil's no, 100% degree. There is no degree. Agree. There is no devil's advocate. But like when you're in a wheelchair, people can see that you're in a wheelchair. Like
Yeah.
it does not, you don't have to bring about, you don't have to introduce the issue into the situation. Like people already know. I'm just saying that because it's really, I feel the same way. I apologize for everything. I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable. I don't want them to think that I don't appreciate what they're doing. I've always wanted to be quote unquote normal. So, and maybe growing up in the South, as a Southern white lady.
Well, so that's another thing that we talked about was that kind of invisible element, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have this panic and anxiety disorder, and I'm constantly making excuses for it and apologizing for it because it's not so apparent.
Right.
It's not as apparent as someone in a wheelchair. So I'm always, I either refuse to accept that I have it, I refuse to accept the severity of it, and I'm always making excuses and apologizing for my needs. And he's like, don't do that.
I mean, that's good. That's kind of you and I think that's kind of one reason why we wanted to do this podcast, because in an ideal world, you could just tell the stylist exactly what's happening and people converse about their mental health issues and they'd be fine. She'd be like, yeah, I understand. Or you wouldn't even have to say anything.
Yeah, I agree. I was taking care of my dogs and I forgot what I was talking about, but we were talking about
not apologizing for what you need for your mental health.
Yes. How do you feel about self-care?
I mean, I think self-care is very important. I also think it's easily the easiest thing to let go by the wayside when you're a human being, because there's so many other things that we feel like we have to get done in a day. And it's difficult, especially because we're harder on ourselves than we are on anybody else. Just like you were saying at the beginning, I tell my husband all the time, because he's so hard on himself, and I say, you wouldn't say that to me. Like the things that you say in your head, you would never say to me. Or if somebody said them to me, you would be really angry. So why do you say them to yourself? Although I do the same thing. Like we're all the hardest on ourselves, and so it's easy to let taking care of yourself go by the side, but it's extremely important. And I think go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you if you thought that self-care was, or if it feels like it's a new concept culturally. Like self-care isn't I don't think it was a phrase I was familiar with growing up in the 90s and early 2000s.
No.
Yeah, I think that this is a relatively new concept, at least for the past, introduced in the past 15
decade.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think something like that, an idea like self-care introduced to my parents, who are both boomers, would probably consider it self-indulgent and selfish, which they couldn't be more wrong. I mean, the thing is, they've practiced self-care. They just don't call it that, or they don't realize that they are, right?
Yeah.
By taking time off, taking days off, taking trips, getting some quote unquote me time.
No, yes, I think it is culturally a new development. You're right. Nobody talked about that when we were kids. But, with the rise of focus on mental health and talking about it, I think everybody knows just how important it is. And it's important to get that vernacular out there so you don't see it as self-indulgent. I guess maybe that's what the term helps with, self-care. It just seems like something that you need to do instead of something that you're indulging in, as opposed to like taking care of your other responsibilities.
I guess.
I don't know.
Well, what do you do for self-care?
I like to take long hot showers, baths. I guess the typical things that you see,
Mhm.
self-care. I know, it's different for everybody. It's anything that relieves your tension, helps you focus on something other than, I guess, normal life. But I play cards on apps, look through Instagram. I guess social media, I should not be one of my self-care since
No.
it is seriously rotting my brain.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty toxic.
any video that's over 10 seconds, I don't have time for.
Well, what about like a nice meal that you've prepared yourself?
Yeah, I
or-
do like that. Yeah, to
Yeah.
cook for myself and family and have us all sit down. And every once in a while, we'll have like a game night. I love game night. I feel like that's a big self-care for me. It makes me
Sure.
happy.
Yeah, it's fun. It takes
Mhm.
your mind off of your stressors,
Mhm.
and you get some tension release.
Mhm. What do you do?
What do I do? I do art, right? I play video games. Video games,
That's
is-
a good one.
yeah.
I guess you could have an argument about
Oh,
that.
I don't play online. Like
Oh.
when I play video games, I don't play online. I
I don't like playing online either.
No,
It stresses me out.
No, I'm not gonna have some 13-year-old kid
Mm-mm.
tell me why I suck.
Mm-mm.
I know why I suck.
Your husband can tell you that.
Yeah. So I play a lot of Resident Evil because
Mhm.
I just like to watch the zombies' heads pop.
Mhm.
It's so gratifying and so cathartic.
It is.
and
It's like instant gratification.
Yes.
Over and over and over again.
yes. Yeah. As soon as those bodies go splatter, man, I'm just relaxed.
Mhm.
And then I do that for a couple of maybe like 2 hours at most, and then
That's hard to stop at 2 hours. My husband and I play video games. Like we get in little obsessive routines where we won't for several months, and then when we do, oh my gosh, yesterday was Sunday. We're recording on a Monday. We played all day long, which
Yeah.
is good. Like
that's great.
It's relaxing, but at the same time, the day seems not wasted, but time goes by so fast when you're lost in something like a video game
Yeah.
or a book or a movie or something like that. So I'm like, oh, I wish I could get some of that time back. But I had a great,
A great
time
weekend
and
with your
wasn't
husband.
stressed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think as long as you finish the act and feel relaxed, relieved,
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
then I think that's self-care done right.
Yeah.
But I don't do too much. Occasionally, once a month, I go for a massage,
Oh yeah.
and those are really, really good. Not always, but for the most part, yeah, just to get rid of all of the excess tension stored in my muscles. So great. It's so
That's-
good. Yeah. I
that's
highly
nice.
recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once a year, typically on my birthday, I go for a chemical peel.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, because nothing relaxes you like acid.
on your face.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's just burn that top
Mhm.
layer of skin right
Mhm.
off.
But you can feel the youth emerging.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, those are pretty I don't want to say superficial
Mhm.
or shallow,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel better.
That's
right.
good.
I don't want to say that self-care should be a moral or ethical or some sort of intellectual pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should really do whatever is going to make you feel better
Yeah.
in some form or another, whether it boosts your confidence,
Mm-hmm.
it boosts your self-esteem. Yeah, I think all that's good.
Yeah, and I also think there's basic tenets of self-care which are much more basic, like eating,
Mm-hmm.
sleeping, and I assume a lot of you guys out there, like me, I'm trying to eat better. I will go forever without eating because I'm busy. I'm trying to sleep better. I'll stay up way too late.
Wait, which by the way, let me just pause you right here. For those who don't know what we look like, just to be gracious and polite, let me just say that Jarrod is 6'5"
Mm-hmm.
and is like a skeleton in a trench coat.
Yeah, that is true.
So skinny.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I am 5'6" and I look like a trench coat filled with puffin penguins.
You don't.
Yes. Have you ever have you ever left cookie dough in the car? Because that's my body. That's what my body looks like.
I think that's a good visual.
Yeah. So his definition of eating right is a little bit different from my definition of eating right.
My definition is just to eat enough for what the nutrients that your body actually needs to survive.
Yeah, I feel like whatever you eat, which I'm guessing is just like an almond every 6 hours, you can probably see it sitting in your stomach.
Well, I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to eat more meals, bigger meals. And I think it just popped into my head, what we're saying may almost make it sound like I have an eating disorder. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Jarrod has been this skinny since I've known him for 20 years now. Yeah. Whereas my eating practices I'm trying.
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest problem is I won't eat during the day, but I'll eat at night right before bed. So
I know they say that's bad, but I try to eat at night right before bed to see if I can gain a little weight, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, I eat right before bed, and it's not a like a on purpose thing. It's just I don't know. It's just how I am. Also, eating or feeling full helps me fall asleep. So
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine.
Make fun of your body.
No, I'm used to it. Believe me, I've known you long enough. But I think, what was it? I posted something on Instagram with a puppy, and he said, "Why is this skeleton hugging this baby dog?" I don't remember what it was, but it's sweet. No, but just the basic tenets of self-care, like I forget about those. I think, oh, maybe I should take a hot bath, but it's like I haven't eaten in 18 hours.
Yeah.
So eating, sleeping. I know a lot of people think exercise, which I know is good. I'm not good at it.
So we've read.
I've seen on TV.
And when you do eat, you probably want to stay away from anything high in fat and sugar, right? Things that are going to aggravate or agitate your body in some capacity.
Yeah, they just break down into sugar real fast.
Yeah, so you don't want you can't really have a calm state of mind when you're in a sugar rush.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, the eating, sleeping, good hygiene.
Good hygiene, cleanliness.
Those are all really important. Making sure that the clothes you're wearing are comfortable. Those are all great.
Which also, like, those basic things, if those are becoming increasingly difficult for you, you can't sleep, you're not eating, or you're eating way too much, you're having difficulty with hygiene, it might be, time to
re-examine what's going on in your world.
Possibly go to a medical professional.
Yeah. I looked up a list of myths about self-care.
Okay.
Which I will post to our Instagram, which is at the Nervous Nellies. One of them is that self-care is not time-consuming. I'm sorry.
So that's a myth?
No, I'm sorry. The myth is self-care is time-consuming.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
okay.
My apologies. Self-care does not require you to take out a huge chunk of time from your busy day. So, for example, for me, as soon as I wake up, I need at least 30 minutes alone to myself in the bathroom. Just, I need that quiet time. I need that space to myself. There's no animals. There's no husband. It's just this clean room that is all mine. And I lock the doors. I'll run the shower. I'll start the shower. And then when it gets hot, I just sit there on the sink and feel that steam a little bit. And then I get in the shower. Yeah. I just need that time.
I wonder what listeners would say. Email us at thenervousnellies@gmail.com, just because as I get older, I never thought of the bathroom as like my self-care oasis. But now that I'm older and you have all the things that society says we should, a job, animals, or a lot of people have kids, a significant other, the bathroom is where I spend most of the time relaxing. Like if it's a shower, or if it's just getting ready, or if it's putting on lotion, or if I'm even just sitting down and looking at my phone or playing, like the bathroom is really a place where you can be by yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, when we bought this house, it was a requirement that we had more than one bedroom because
smart.
I need to decompress when I get home from work.
Uh-huh.
I need time alone. I like my time alone,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was really hard for my husband at first, and it may be hard for your spouse or your SO
Mm-hmm.
to hear that you need time to yourself, time and space, but it's so important, and the relationship will benefit from it because you just really need time to. I mean, for me, I just unpack everything I went through for the day, put it away where it needs to go, or toss it, and then I'm good. I'm good to go.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm with my husband, my focus is on him. It's not on me.
Mhm.
And yeah. And I think self-care, some people think, oh, I need to go get an hour-long massage. I need to go get a facial. And that's not, it can just be time by yourself where you're not surrounded by anybody else, where you can just process your day.
Yeah, I mean, before we had the house, I would have to do it in the car. So I'd pull up in the driveway, and I'd just sit there for about 10 minutes
I do that sometimes.
and feel the AC, listen to the music, or just sit in silence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good. It was so good for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it keeps me from just coming in to the house all huffy and just like emptying out my purse on the table. Right. And that's a not literally. I have a purse.
Oh, I do.
But you know what I mean.
Yes.
I think that's a perfect description of what a lot of couples go through, just coming in and dumping your purse all over the table.
Yeah, and it's better for your relationship if you can spend that 10 minutes and
Right.
like let some of that go, and then you're not dumping. I mean, your spouse is also there for you as a sounding board and for you to vent to, but yes, it's good if you can calm down from your day a little bit and then come in the house with a clearer mind.
Yes. Agreed. One aspect of self-care that I had not really considered until recently was, we talked about food and the kind of food that we consume, but then there's also the media that we consume.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? So it may not be the best move for your mental health to spend a lot of time either on social media or watching the news, or spending a lot of time watching television in general. That stuff really does seep in and influences you in ways that you do not realize. So I do my best to limit how much television I consume and social media. It's tough. It's really tough because you have this urge to know what's going on in your world, but then you can only handle so much before it starts to have a genuine impact on your mental health and then your body.
Yeah, it's a stressor. I mean, after the election with not this last one, but the one before, I have not been back on Twitter. I mean, Twitter is, I don't want to say anything, but it's hard. It's a lot of negativity.
There's a reason why we never set up a Twitter account for this podcast. It's because I don't
go on Twitter.
I don't want you to have to face the Twitter crowd because there's there's just no good that can come from it. I mean, maybe there is, right? But I don't want to risk it.
You have to weed your way through all the negativity. Yeah.
It's too much of a minefield to even bother with it. So, and the same thing goes for Facebook. I don't want to deal with it. So
that's why I kind of like Instagram. I mean, not that it's necessarily better, but I just look at pictures. I follow people I like, makeup artists, drag queens, like friends like you and your store, your comic book store. And so, yeah, it's not overwhelming.
Right. So here's another aspect, or here's something that it's really hard for me to do, but I try to do it as much as possible. And that is to remind myself of how much space I take up.
Okay.
Is that a weird concept?
Well, yeah, explain it to me.
Okay. So I'd say one of the key aspects of my self-esteem or my low self-esteem is not feeling like I'm seen or heard right? And so I will overcompensate, and I will, say or do something silly or stupid to, pull focus and get attention. And that's really juvenile. And then I get stuck in a loop. And then years ago, I just, I was explaining to a therapist that I just don't feel like I'm worthy of people's time and attention, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel, sorry, I got distracted by a child yelling. Did you hear that? Yeah. Neighbor child. So when I get in modes where I feel insignificant and small and just easily forgotten, I will remind myself that I take up space. I am in this space too. I am a person. I have needs, and those should not be neglected, right?
Yeah.
Or ignored. It's really difficult to do when a lot of people like to pretend that they are the main character.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, but and that can definitely make you feel even smaller, right? So one of the things I like to do is just remind myself that I take up space because I am a person. It's one of the most beneficial, most healing things that I can do. I highly encourage people to try that. There was a meditation technique that I learned, 20 years ago, where you kind of like own your space. It's a visual technique. It's basically where you sit still in a room that you know well. Close your eyes, and then like a grid, I will try to map out everything that's going on in this room, like where things are, where the bed is, where the couch is, the lamp, so on, so on, so on.
Okay.
So basically, I know every aspect of the room, every corner. I can see in my mind's eye every cobweb, every speck of dust, all of it, and then that's my way of owning the room. Right? It is my room, and then to extend that out. You feel a sense of ownership. You feel a sense of authority. You're reminded of your agency and your power, and it's good. It's it's a really good practice. I really like doing it. It takes some time and practice to figure out how to do that. Right? I encourage people to Google it, but you feel so much more confident in your space.
That's interesting. That sounds good. Do you picture yourself in the space or just the space? You picture yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it heavily relies on imagination and if you
visuals.
And if you need to, you can always open your eyes, and then you're literally with your eyes open, you're just tracing the outline of the room with your eyes, inch by inch by inch, and it's really calming and relaxing, but it's a way to own the space. Yeah. And then how that carries out into the real world is that you carry that kind of confidence with you, that kind of ownership of space, and you're just like projecting like this aura of I am here, which doesn't sound all that groundbreaking, but it really does wonders.
It is if you've always felt like you weren't there or you were unworthy, like to feel like I take up space in this world just as much as anybody else.
Do you know what NPC means?
No.
Like if somebody were to describe you as an NPC.
You mean like, I'm thinking of the JNIC or whatever, the 5 personality traits.
Oh, no. No, this is a video game term.
Oh, no.
But it has worked its way, I have found, into a lot of modern lexicon. But it stands for non-playable character. And so basically, when you're playing a video game or if you're watching a movie, but specifically video games, and you're the main character, and then you just see like a figure or a person in the background that you can't interact with, and they're just there to be a part of the scenery. That is an NPC, a non-playable character.
Okay.
And the reason that I think that became such a used term is because, or common term, if it is common, is because a lot of people have started to feel that way,
Mm-hmm.
that their self-esteem and confidence have just kind of disappeared
Mm-hmm.
and have started to become a part of the scenery, right? They just
Yeah.
kind of melt into the background, and there's just no worse feeling than that. So to kind of break that cycle and to really stand out, you have to practice self-care.
Yeah, you need to feel like you belong in this world, that you take up space, that you're just as important as anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my therapists was encouraging me to speak up, like just generally be louder,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really difficult thing for me to do. I don't think I have the lung capacity to be louder. But that's another practice, right? That you can attempt for self-care, right? Just to make sure that your voice is fucking heard. And that's so hard to do.
It is. And that's why I think the reason when you asked if it was an NPC, maybe the reason the whole thing seems kind of different to me is, and this is great, this is why there's both of us here on this show, because some people will identify with different ones of us at different times. But even though I can have horrible self-esteem, not feel like I fit in, I never feel like I don't want to say I never feel like I'm not worthy, but I'm always more like, hey, pay attention to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that, right?
Yeah. I do. There was I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so how do you feel? Okay, so where do you think practicing empathy comes in self-care?
Okay, I think this is a huge thing. I think that if you are caught up in your own BS, one of the best things you can do is to try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, possibly even think of ways that you could help somebody else, be of use to somebody else, do some sort of service for somebody else. Because when you are doing that, you automatically get out of your own headspace.
Mm-hmm.
You're focused on the other person or other group of people, and then you're focused on bringing about something positive into the world, into the situation, instead of, and I say you, but I mean me, like too,
Sure.
like from experience, I get to focus on creation instead of
Yes. Yeah.
the opposite.
I love the idea of creation,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't mean in the obviously in the biblical sense,
Yeah, we know.
or in the literal sense of
Mhm. Babies.
I was thinking of art,
Oh, okay.
but I mean like the idea of creating a scene,
Mhm.
right? Of creating a moment,
Mhm.
a vibe, if you will,
Mhm. Vibe. I like that.
right? By being nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, kind of along the same lines is forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
and what that can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking about my relationship with my mother, and specifically what my mother was like in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And it took me all these years to really think about, or to realize that I never actually looked at it from her point of view,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You put yourself in her shoes.
Yes. So I would always think about like, oh, my mom would make me do this when I was a child, blah, 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 blah. But it never occurred to me to really focus on or to examine the situation fully.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started to understand that I'm talking about a woman of color in the late 1980s
In the South.
in the South with very limited skills, unfortunately, just because of how she grew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she didn't learn to drive until she was in her 30s,
Uh-huh.
who had 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
who had a husband that unfortunately had to work late and way across town.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's possible that she was a little hard on me at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it never occurred to me to really look at it from that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And that made the concept of forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
so much easier.
Yeah. I think I have two things to say. They're probably both cliche, but
Tell me.
Okay, the first one is, especially when you're upset with somebody, when you're not vibing with them, if you think they are hurting you in some way, I don't want to speak in like absolutes, but it helps me to always think this person is or was doing the best they could with what they had.
Yes.
Even if this person is a horrible piece of crap.
Oh, now you're going to censor yourself?
Yeah. They're still probably doing the best they can with what they have, and what they have not only being their environment, their upbringing, but their biology, the way their brain works, as opposed to you. We're not all the same. Everybody can't experience the same situation and have the same reaction to it. So, yeah, I mean, most people honestly are doing the best they can. A lot of times that is horrible, but it's still the best they can do. And that kind of opens the door into putting yourself in their situation and the ability to forgive. And then the other thing I was going to say about forgiveness and, vice versa, resentment, is that I've always heard that holding a resentment or a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yes, that's great.
Because the other person is not out there worried about you.
Right.
You're in here like seething and thinking and hating, and all this energy, all this negativity, all this power you're giving to that person. This person more than likely is out there living their life, and they're not even thinking of you. So what good does that do? It only introduces negativity into your own space, into your own energy, into your own mind. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like those are just good things to say, because it's not like you can be like, oh yeah, forgive that person. It doesn't work that way.
Right,
but those
right.
are both little like foot in the door to like.
Yeah. And, there's actually a possibility that that forgiveness can be done incrementally.
Absolutely.
Yes. It does not have to be, one big absolute thing that happens all at once. If you just take it one little piece at a time and just, let it pass, let it pass. And then next thing you know, the whole situation or that person is forgiven, right? Like the more you digest it piece by piece and really think about everything that took place or what really hurt you, then it becomes so much easier for for the whole scenario to kind of fade from what my therapist calls the trauma backpack.
Oh, mine's full.
Yes.
I got two.
Jared's got a trauma fanny pack.
I got a trauma fanny pack. I got a trauma purse. I got a trauma
satchel,
makeup bag full of trauma.
Yes, and it's important to not forget the forgiving yourself.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing.
Yeah, just to kind of bring it right back around to what we were talking about at the beginning. Yeah, forgiving yourself for your needs or for your fuck ups, your the things that you said because of your insecurities. Yeah, I know it's so difficult to do, but learning to forgive yourself is so important. That's probably, I'd say that's up there in the
most.
Yeah, that's the apex of self-care.
Yeah, because when you're able to forgive yourself, it's a lot easier to forgive other people.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. A lot of times when you're able to forgive other people, and like Gabriel said, it could be a lifelong process. And just because you forgive doesn't mean you forget. And just
right. And in some cases, you shouldn't forget.
You shouldn't, because you need to learn from that history, learn from that situation. But yeah, you could be, you could forgive this person for 20 years ago doing 3, but not all 5 things, and then you work on that. But the thing I think Gabriel was talking about and what I'm talking about is when you're in the headspace of wanting to forgive, even if the person isn't forgiven, it changes your mental energy. It changes your headspace. It's a more positive area for you to be in. So even if it takes another 20 years, you're on the right path, and it's not going to weigh you down as much as it would if you were just focusing on the negative.
So honestly, I was worried when we decided on
self-care,
the subject of self-care, that we were going to be talking about a lot of things that people are familiar with, like eating right and exercise and all of that. And
those are important.
Yeah, those things are important, but they are very small aspects, or they're additions to a much larger routine, I feel.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I mean, of course it's implied, and I think we both, and Gabriel says this, but therapy is self-care.
Yes, 100%. So in the show notes, I have a link to where you can find a therapist that's closest to you, either physically or how to find one online. I really think that we should do an episode on therapy.
Okay.
Just like the like therapy 101, what to expect and how to find one and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd be really, really helpful. But I feel like all of that stuff that we talked about, hot baths and a good meal, those are all just
treating symptoms.
Yeah, those are all just small steps in a much larger, and much larger acts of self-care.
You're right. Like you got down to the more core of it, like those big things like forgiveness and forgiving yourself, loving other people, being compassionate.
Take up space, especially, you know, I can't tell you how many women or women identifying people that I have in my orbit that have talked to me about feeling neglected, feeling ignored, feeling just unseen, unheard. And being a male, I have that privilege of never feeling that way that much. I'm still a brown gay male, so, you know, I still have my battles. But anybody that's identifies as female, if you need any encouragement, words of encouragement, just take up space.
You're enough.
Yeah. Put your fucking hands on your hips. Pull a power stance, very similar to Wonder Woman. You know, I saw something in a magazine once that talked about the benefits of doing that stance.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's an actual... there's like actual science behind what goes on in your brain when you put your hands on your hips like that you do feel powerful and you do feel like you own the space because your elbows are out. And in that position, you're also unknowingly like not arching your back, you're straightening your back and puffing out your chest.
So you're taking up as much space as your body can.
Yeah, and I mean, that's basically what animals do in the...
they bow up.
In the wild, when they want to seem larger than they appear, they'll throw their arms out and stand on their hind legs and try and look as imposing as possible. Do that. I know a lot of lizards that do that.
You have personal relationships with these lizards?
I'm just saying that, ladies, if you want to get heard, pull a lizard and just like stand on your hind legs, puff out your chest, put your hands on your hips, and take up as much fucking space as you can. And be loud. Be loud. Use
Don't
your
feel
voice.
bad to speak up for yourself and what your needs are.
I know that's so hard because so many of us, female or not, have been taught to, you know, speak when spoken to.
Suppress your own needs. Take care of others first.
That too. No. Stop it. Stop doing that. Look out for yourself. It's an act of self-care. Yeah. I think that's good.
I think that's good. If y'all want to tell us anything that you do for self-care, email us at thenervousnellies@gmail.com. Nellies is N... That wasn't even a letter. Nellies. You can follow us at The Nervous Nellies on Instagram.
And on Instagram, you'll find a link tree that leads to our Patreon, where you can join for $1, and we say thank you.
Thank you.
Or you can join for $5 and get early access to new episodes. And 50% of the money that we collect throughout the month will go towards an annual donation to the Trevor Project, and the other 50% will go towards maintaining this podcast. I need a new microphone.
Me too. We have the same microphones.
So yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Practice self-care. Like yourself.
Take up space.
Take up space.
You're worthy.
Be loud.
We love you.
I think you're just okay.
Bye.
The powers come from the gods. the pearls comes from the gods.